Dear members of the Portuguese government, dear Mayor of Ponte do Sur, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a pleasure for me to be back here after, or a year later, in Ponte do Sur for this fantastic Portugal Air Summit. Again, here with all of you, it's in great company. After the 2020 edition, where the event had to adapt to the new reality by offering a hybrid format, I am impressed actually in witness how, despite all this adversity and challenging context, this summit has managed to grow. It is a positive sign and definitely a source of inspiration for both aviation and the event industry itself. What an eventful year it has been. Among other things, it has actually given us an opportunity to see Portugal embracing a leadership role in Europe. This has been the case in vaccination numbers, where the country has been made the headlines in the New York Times at the beginning of the month, but also in aviation, holding the presidency of the EU Council and working in parallel to deliver a much-needed single European Skies 2+. The implementation of the SES 2+ is critical, particularly to achieve the ambitious environmental targets we have set. But until it becomes a reality, a national platform for dialogue around air traffic management should see the light, involving at least the airlines, air navigation service providers, airports, and the Civil Aviation Authority. This modus operandi already exists in France and Italy, and it is crucial not only to make aviation greener, but also to continue addressing the capacity challenge, which will come back to haunt us. In addition, let us not forget that new entrants, like unmanned aircraft, will increase the pressure and require readdressing capacity. Flying for a new start, which is the theme of this year's Portugal Air Summit, also means sitting together, creating this dialogue platform to collectively address airspace sustainability, capacity, and efficiency. We call on the Portuguese state to facilitate this platform, particularly after our plans to sign such an agreement today with the Portuguese stakeholders were postponed due to internal opposition from those that should be the most interested in ensuring a meaningful and transparent dialogue among stakeholders. Last year, I came here on what represented my first flight since the start of the pandemic in Europe back in March. Since then, I have traveled to various destinations in Europe and Latin America, which suggest things have gotten a bit better. Unfortunately, despite these positive signs, IATA's recent forecast continues to point towards a shocking number of losses, right? Between 2020 and 2022, losses should amount to about $200 billion. This is because, despite important improvements such as advancing in vaccination campaigns, we still face many barriers, including the lack of harmonized measures, closed borders, quarantine, and costly tests. Markets in Asia and the Americas are still not fully open, and the absence of long-haul travel is damaging many airlines, airports, and the entire value chain. If on one hand, the visiting friends and relative segment shows signs of being the first one to rebound, on the other, business travel is kept at minimal levels due to restricted travel budgets. Less business travel might become a trend, with a full recovery to 2019 levels likely not happening ever again, maybe. For some airlines, adapting to this new reality means a profound review of their business models and a need for transformation. Despite these many barriers, we have witnessed a genuine growth will to fly again from the early stages of the crisis, be it for personal or professional reasons. The human touch is precisely what makes us human, and people are not ready to abandon this despite improved technology solutions or video conferencing. Our latest passenger survey from September, carried in 11 markets worldwide, show an increasing frustration with the travel restrictions. 67% of respondents felt that most countries' borders should be open now, which is actually 12% increase compared to June of 2021 survey. 73% respondents that their quality of life is suffering due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. Travel restrictions are not a solution to control the virus, and people are tired of missing family moments, personal development opportunities, and business priorities. In short, they miss the freedom of flying and want it restored. The message they are sending to governments is COVID-19 is not to disappear, so we must establish a way to manage its risk while living and traveling normally. When there is a will, there is a way. It is time governments remove the barriers impeding the industry to recover by facilitating a passenger demand that has been impatiently waiting in the restarting block. Since the start of the crisis, IATA has never ceased advocating for a harmonization of measures and will persistently continue to do so. Aviation must continue to deliver its benefits to society and economies and enable a much-needed connectivity between countries, cities, and people. The work done by the industry to create a safe and seamless journey is valued by passengers, as suggested actually by our travel surveys that I mentioned since June of 2020. Of these passengers, 86% felt safe on board the flight. 87% believe protective measures as well are well implemented, and 88% felt airlines personnel are doing the job in enforcing COVID-19 rules. Yet, travel rules and requirements continue to pose an issue to travelers. 73% of those who have flown since June 2020 find it challenging to understand what rules apply for a trip, and felt that COVID-19 paperwork was challenging to arrange. I can testify to all of this because every country does something different in that regard. A lot of paper, actually. Furthermore, markets need to reopen, and digital solutions such as the EU Digital COVID Certificate and the IATA Travel Pass must be accepted and implemented by governments worldwide to cement the recovery. Though we estimate recovery to be a long process and that will not see a return to 2019 numbers until 2024, recovery must and will actually happen. Issues we had before the crisis will resurface, and that includes infrastructure and capacity. I would like to take the opportunity to request clarity from the Portuguese authority on their plans for a new airport in Lisbon or the conversion of the Montijo Air Base, and also to share our desire to be involved in these discussions. Anticipation is key, particularly if Lisbon and Portugal want to maintain their touristic attractivity in what will surely become an even more highly competitive environment than before. Despite drastically reducing costs, the industry is still struggling from a financial perspective. And though we are grateful for the financial aid provided by many governments, the industry will welcome financial relief that does not inflate future debt. Also in Portugal, it is essential that not just airlines, but the entire ecosystem survives the crisis and therefore receives the necessary financial relief and support to ensure all industry players can deliver on their obligations. In addition to the financial efforts made to remain sustainable, air transport must continue on its journey towards greater diversity, equality, and inclusion. TAP nominated Ms. Christine Omiers-Widner as a CEO, obviously, now, which is great news. And just a week ago, IATA elected actually Christine as a member of the IATA Board of Governors, which I would like to congratulate her. Although highlighting the nomination of a woman as an industry leader is still news today, we hope that inclusion, diversity, and equity becomes part of everyday vocabulary and actions, and that the female leaders in aviation becomes a non-event, or any other industry for that matter. Speaking on sustainability, not only is air transport trying to return from the red numbers back to black, but it will seek to green them as well. Though it has been in our agenda for a long time, and aviation was the first transport mode to make public commitment back in 2009, the environment has increasingly become a top priority. Tackling climate change is the mission of all, and our members are adopting environmentally friendly measures and policies. These include renewing fleet, removing single-use plastic items, and avoiding onboard food waste, just to mention a few. Taxation and carbon charges, like the ones we have here in Portugal, actually harm demand and have no practical positive effect on the environment. These taxes could represent, for Portugal, for example, up to 50 million euros in a year like 2019. However, this large amount charged to the passengers is not being used to make aviation more sustainable in any way, and will have the adverse effect of deviating tourism from Portugal to other touristic destinations. On a parallel environmental file, according to the EU and ICAO, airlines should sit on the table to have a meaningful discussion whenever night restrictions are addressed, and IATA is still waiting for this to become a reality in Portugal. We are ready and willing to cooperate with the Portuguese government and all the aviation stakeholders in this vital topic for all airlines. Cooperation will be key to ensure the sustainability of our industry, particularly for an environmental perspective. Just a week ago, at its annual general meeting, IATA approved a resolution for the global air transport industry to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. This commitment will align with the Paris Agreement goal for global warming not to exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Incentives such as the European Green Deal, which includes the Fit for 55 package, can only materialize if all industry stakeholders, including governments, take individual responsibility to address the environmental impact of their policies, products, and activities. Together should not just be a word of intention, but truly become a reality. Only then we will be able to transition out of fossil fuels into a greener, carbon neutral, and even carbon negative tomorrow. To achieve this ambitious quest, we will focus on reducing CO2 emissions through a wide range of solutions. This includes sustainable aviation fuels, new aircraft technology, more efficient operations and infrastructure like the single European sky that I mentioned before, as well as the development of new zero emissions energy sources such as electric and hydrogen power. Any emission that cannot be eliminated at source will be eliminated through out-of-sector options such as carbon capture and storage and credible offsetting schemes. We will need government support and incentives, no further taxes and punitive measures. We need carrots, not whips. We count on a similar support as the one granted to the car industry through policies and financial incentives for the key players involved in ensuring aviation can continue to safely and sustainably connect the world. Safely and sustainably, because safety remains a sine qua non condition for aviation in its objectives to restart, recovery, and growth. No matter the evolution of our industry, our priority cannot and will not change. Neither will our efforts to ensure that aviation remains secure and the passenger's journey is as seamless as possible, notably through further digitalization and contactless travel. Aviation must remain the business of freedom. It is the role and responsibility of all the industry players to deliver this vision. Harmonization is critical, and a joint approach needs to be adopted to tackle the many challenges of our flight path to a more sustainable air transport. In this sense, I really look forward to partaking in the discussion later today with Thierry Ligonier, CEO of ANA, on finding synergies between airports and airlines, and I hope to see you all there. Let this positive joint approach symbolize the industry will to collectively restart, pave the way to a financially and environmentally sustainable recovery, and mark a new dawn for European aviation. Thank you.